The neighborhood looked like a scene out of a glossy real estate brochure. Perfect rows of manicured lawns, SUVs sparkling in driveways, mailboxes standing like obedient soldiers. If you didn't know better, you'd think paradise had a zip code. But the way the neighborhood watch signs glared from every corner, the way the curtains twitched when you walked by, yeah, paradise came with a pair of binoculars and a clipboard. This was Oak Ridge Estates, home to an HOA so power-hungry they made small-town sheriffs look like mall cops. And me? I had the questionable honor of owning a house smack in the middle of it all. Not that I cared. I wasn't here for bake sales or block parties. I liked my privacy. I liked my space. And most of all, I liked being left alone. The HOA didn't like that. They didn't like that. I didn't wave at every patrol golf cart. Didn't like that my grass sometimes dared to grow half an inch too tall. We had our dance. Passive-aggressive. Letters slipped under my door. Fines that magically appeared for trash cans visible from the street. Even though they weren't. I played their game. Smiled. Nodded. Ignored every stupid ticket. But they wanted more. They wanted control. Total obedience. And when you don't bow to petty power, they send bigger dogs. Or so they thought. Today was supposed to be quiet. My daughter, Liz, was stopping by to water the plants, check on the place while I was away. Just a normal errand. Harmless. Except in Oak Ridge, a harmless visit could turn into a headline. Especially when a bunch of wannabe Rambo types decided to throw their weight around. If they had known who Liz really was, maybe they would have thought twice. But they didn't. And by the time they figured it out, it would be too late. Way, way too late. Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit that like button, share it with friends, and subscribe for more awesome content. And while you're at it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. All right, let's keep going. Trouble doesn't always kick the door in. Sometimes it parks quietly at the curb, adjusts its mirrored sunglasses, and pretends it belongs. Liz pulled up in her silver Jeep, humming under her breath, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath Oak Ridge's sterile surface. She wasn't dressed for a war, just jeans, a faded sweatshirt, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. Casual, invisible. At least that was the plan. She barely made it up the walkway before she caught it, the unmistakable crunch of tires. Slow, deliberate. A black SUV rolled to a stop across the street. Tinted windows, no plates she could see. Liz's instincts sharpened instantly. You don't spend a decade running tactical raids without recognizing a tail. Out of habit, she kept hurry. Posture relaxed, her steps light. One hand casually rested near her hip, not where she usually kept her sidearm, but muscle memory never really left. The door creaked as she unlocked it. She slipped inside, quick glance over her shoulder. Still watching. Still waiting. She sighed, under her breath. Amateurs. Minutes later, while she watered the spider plants near the window, a shadow broke across the glass. 3 men now, all wearing the same navy polo shirts with cheap-looking security patches stitched on. Heavy boots, mirrored shades, bloated with self-importance. One rapped his knuckles hard against the door. Another flanked toward the side window. The third stood by the Jeep, inspecting it like he had a warrant, which, Liz knew for a fact, he didn't. She stayed calm, calculating. These guys were no professionals. Their formation was sloppy. No discipline in the way they moved, no real chain of command, but their hands hovered a little too close to their belts for her liking. And their belts? Didn't look standard issue. The first one barked through the door. "Step outside immediately, ma'am. HOA security inspection." Liz raised an eyebrow. Inspection? For what? Trespassing on my own damn property? She opened the door. Just a crack. Enough to see the glint of something metallic holstered under the lead man's jacket. A gun. This wasn't a courtesy call. It was an ambush wrapped in a fake badge. She smiled thinly. "Got a warrant?" The man smirked, stepping closer, hand brushing the grip of his weapon. "Don't need one. This is private property. HOA rules." Liz's fingers twitched with the urge to laugh. "Private property? Buddy, you're about 3 seconds from making the worst mistake of your life." She closed the door slowly. Calm, deliberate. Already reaching for her phone with one hand, and something else with the other. The situation was about to escalate, and Liz was about to show them exactly what private security was up against. When amateurs bring guns to a fight they don't understand, it usually ends 2 ways: badly for them, or very badly. Liz cracked the door again, enough to see the lead officer stiffen, his hand tightening on his sidearm like a dog straining at a leash. She kept her voice calm, almost bored. "You're trespassing. Last chance to walk away." The man smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No, ma'am. You're the trespasser. On HOA property. Step outside now, or I'll be forced to detain you." "Detain me." Liz almost laughed. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him like a scientist examining a bug. His posture screamed insecurity. The way his thumb twitched near the holster? Sloppy. Nervous. Probably itching to prove he was the alpha dog. Behind him, his 2 buddies, flanked wider, trying to box her in. They were telegraphing every move like bad poker players. Liz's fingers brushed the slim black device tucked in her pocket. Not a weapon. Not yet. But if it came to it, she had bigger surprises waiting. The security officer took another step, forward. And then, flash of silver. He pulled his gun. Low, casual, trying to act like it was nothing. But Liz saw the tension in his jaw, the glint of sweat just starting to bead at his temple. He was scared. That made him dangerous. "Last warning," he growled. "Step outside. Hands where I can see them." Liz met his stare, cold and unimpressed. "You're pointing a gun at a federal agent's house," she said evenly. "You really want to make that mistake today?" The words hung there for a beat. Not a shout. Not a threat. Just a simple fact, delivered like a punch to the gut. He faltered. Slightly. Enough. The barrel dipped for a fraction of a second. Liz used it. Fast as a viper strike, she shoved the door open hard, slamming it into his outstretched arm. The gun clattered to the ground with a heavy thud. Before he could react, Liz stepped forward, twisting his wrist in a brutal lock, spinning him face first into the siding. His buddies scrambled, one reaching for his belt, the other fumbling with a radio, too slow. Way too slow. Liz kicked the fallen gun back inside with a sharp snap of her boot. Secured. Out of reach, heart steady, mind razor-sharp, she spoke into her phone without looking away from the man pinned against the wall. "This is Special Agent Liz Carter. Suspected armed threat. Request immediate law enforcement backup at Oak Ridge Estates." She let the words slice through the air like a knife. Clear. Calm. Absolute. And across the street, unseen until now, another black SUV started rolling slowly toward them. Backup. But not the kind these fake cops were hoping for. Sometimes the quiet ones aren't just dangerous. They're the nightmare you never see coming. The man's breath rasped against the siding, the cheap vinyl creaking under the pressure of Liz's hold. His buddies hovered uncertainly, hands twitching, but none dared move. Out of the corner of her eye, Liz saw the second black SUV ease to a stop. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, moving with the kind of crisp efficiency that screamed government. The fake security guards stiffened. Something primitive flickered in their eyes, the instinct to run when the predator steps into the clearing. Liz tightened her grip just slightly, enough to make the man wince. "You really should have checked who you were messing with," she murmured. Her voice was low, steady. "You think you're the first idiot with a badge and an attitude I've had to put down?" The nearest suit approached, flashing a real badge so fast it was almost a blur. Department of Justice. Not local, federal. Commander Carter, the agent said crisply, giving her the respect her title carried. We've been monitoring the situation. Commander, not officer. Not agent. Commander. The realization hit the fake guards like a sledgehammer. They weren't hassling some suburban housewife. They'd just pulled a gun on a tactical operations commander for the FBI. And Liz? Liz Carter had spent the last 12 years leading high-risk raids, hostage rescues, and deep infiltration ops all over the country. She was the one the FBI sent when negotiations failed, and force became inevitable. The fake guard in her grip sagged slightly, his bravado leaking, out like air from a punctured tire. Liz leaned closer to him, her words soft but lethal. You pulled a weapon on federal property. You threatened a federal agent, and you impersonated law enforcement. She let the weight of it sink in before stepping back. The DOJ agents moved in like sharks scenting blood. Cuffs clicked into place. Rough, unceremonious. The two remaining security thugs were already on their knees, hands laced behind their heads, their whole tough guy act disintegrating in real time. Liz dusted her hands off and retrieved the fallen handgun with a gloved hand, dropping it into an evidence bag one of the suits produced. As they loaded the men into waiting vehicles, one of the agents turned to Liz. You want first crack at the debrief? She shook her head, allowing a faint smirk. Let 'em sweat. I'll see them when they stop lying. The suburban streets of Oak Ridge looked exactly the same. Manicured lawns, cookie-cutter houses, sprinklers ticking away. But underneath the surface, the facade was crumbling. Because tonight, the wrong people learned the hard way. Not every house on the block is easy prey. And Liz Carter wasn't just anyone. When trouble calls for backup, the right kind doesn't come with flashing lights. It comes with silent boots, loaded weapons, and no second chances. Liz Carter stood in the middle of the cul-de-sac, the faint sunset bleeding red across the rooftops. The scene around her was frozen. The wannabe security guards cuffed and miserable, the neighbors peeking through their curtains, hearts pounding behind white picket fences. She tapped her earpiece once. Echo 4, status green, package secure, request extraction team, code black. Her voice was calm, controlled, like she was ordering takeout instead of cleaning up a botched armed confrontation. Across the street, a kid's soccer ball bounced into the road. Liz's eyes flicked over instinctively. Threat assessment. But the street was clear for now. A low hum filled the air. Not sirens. Helicopters. Two of them, dark and unmarked, slipping across the sky like wolves hunting at dusk. The DOJ agents tightened their perimeter, pushing the cuffs tighter, barking into radios. Liz barely moved. She knew how this played out. Commander, transport ETA 4 minutes, one agent said, jogging up. Liz nodded once, her mind already 3 steps ahead. If these clowns had backup, and she was willing to bet they did, those idiots wouldn't take kindly to seeing their friends dragged away. Especially if they had delusions about taking the neighborhood back. She paced slowly, boots crunching, on the asphalt. A mental inventory ran through her mind. 3 agents on ground, 2 choppers in air. Her Glock secured at her lower back, and a fast-approaching extraction unit trained to neutralize chaos without blinking. Still, something gnawed at her gut. That 6th sense, the one that had saved her life too many times to ignore. Keep your eyes up, she warned the agents. Too quiet. As if on cue, a battered pickup truck appeared at the far end of the block, headlights off, engine growling low. 2 men leaned out of the windows. Shadows. But Liz didn't need clearer visuals to know what was coming. Reinforcements. Or at least a desperate attempt to be. Liz didn't break stride. She clicked her comms twice, a silent signal. The helicopter lights snapped on at once, blinding and merciless, pinning the truck in place like an insect under glass. The truck skidded sideways, tires screaming, as black-clad agents swarmed. From the shadows, Liz stayed perfectly still, arms folded, as chaos erupted around her. She was the eye of the storm, and the storm had just begun. The deeper you dig into dirt, the more bones you find. And this neighborhood was sitting on a graveyard. By the time Liz slid into the passenger seat of the armored SUV, the scene was a war zone of flashing lights and tight-lipped agents. The cul-de-sac, so pristine just an hour ago, now looked like a hostile extraction point in a third-world dictatorship. She pulled out her tablet, fingers flying across the screen. Background checks, facial recognition, criminal databases lighting up like Christmas trees. The first name pinged. Back Frank Delaney, alleged chief of HOA security. Except Frank wasn't certified for security work, wasn't licensed for firearms. Hell, Frank wasn't even a real guard. He was a two-time felon out of Arizona, with priors for racketeering and weapons trafficking. Liz's jaw tightened. And he wasn't alone. One by one, the identities rolled in, a dirty roster of ex-cons, grifters, and hired muscle. Their so-called security team was nothing more than a front, a private army stitched together by desperation, greed, and maybe something worse. Liz leaned back in her seat, the leather creaking under her vest. This wasn't just about HOA politics, she thought grimly. Someone funded this. She glanced out the window. The neighbors, huddled on porches and sidewalks, looked more scared than angry now. They had no idea what had been growing right under their noses. Her earpiece crackled. "Commander Carter, this is Special Agent Ruiz. You'll want to hear this. We found a van parked 2 blocks down, loaded with surveillance gear and counterfeit HOA documents. We're looking at a full-blown organized scam." Liz's lips curled into a thin, humorless smile. It figured. Fake fines, fake evictions, fake authority. It wasn't about enforcing rules. It was about bleeding homeowners dry, intimidating anyone who pushed back. And judging from the pile of forged paperwork they were uncovering, they'd been successful. Until now. She keyed her mic. Secure. The van. Sweep for hard drives, phones, anything digital. Get forensics moving. Fast. Roger that, Commander. The truck that had tried to rescue the guards earlier? It was registered to a shell company in Nevada, one linked to a known crime syndicate, which meant this wasn't some isolated scam. It was bigger, darker. Liz's mind raced ahead, cold and surgical. If they were this bold here, how many other neighborhoods had they sunk their claws into? The thought was chilling. And one thing was certain. She was going to find out, even if she had to tear down the whole rotten system to do it. You think the wolves are outside the gate? Until you realize they're the ones handing out the keys. Liz stood inside the freshly secured HOA office, a sterile, over-decorated room that reeked of fake prestige and expensive lies. Agents moved around her like sharks scenting blood, bagging up files, computers, and anything that wasn't nailed down. Her boots echoed on the marble floor as she moved toward the heavy oak desk. It wasn't just a desk. It was a vault. She pried it open. Inside, a black ledger. Simple, unmarked, and damning. Liz flipped it open, her gloved fingers tracing rows of coded transactions. Large cash withdrawals. Security upgrades to non-existent companies. Payments labeled relocation assistance, suspiciously timed with homeowner foreclosures. Her gut twisted. They weren't protecting the community. They were plundering it. Every violation fine, every suspension of rights. All part of a system rigged to bleed out the vulnerable and sell the properties to their own shell companies. Foreclose, flip, profit, and do it again. She scanned further. Notes in margins, initialed by none other than the HOA president himself. Martin Hale. Liz's lips thinned to a razor's edge. Hale wasn't some clueless figurehead. He was the architect. Behind her, Ruiz came jogging up, breathless. "Commander, you're gonna want to see this." He held up a USB drive in a clear evidence bag. Pulled from Hale's private safe. Liz arched an eyebrow. "What's on it?" Ruiz grinned grimly. "Video recordings, covert meetings, bribes, threats. Oh, and conversations with some very interesting business partners tied to organized crime." Liz felt a cold satisfaction settle in her chest. Perfect. Out the window she could see Hale sitting handcuffed on the curb, his $2,000 suit rumpled and stained with sweat. The same man who once puffed up his chest at HOA meetings, bullying retirees and single parents into submission. Now, just another criminal waiting for the fall. Liz's radio crackled again. "Commander, local PD just confirmed. Multiple homeowners have been coming forward. Complaints, lawsuits, you name it." It was like a dam breaking. One whistleblower sparked another, then another. The whole rotten empire was collapsing in real time. Liz allowed herself a rare, satisfied smirk. "You built your little kingdom on sand, Martin, and now it's washing away." She turned toward Ruiz. "Tell the team, lock it all down. No one leaves, no one talks without counsel present." Ruiz nodded and sprinted off. Liz stared down at the ledger one last time, feeling the heavy weight of justice building like a thunderstorm, and she knew. This was just the beginning. The truth is like a wrecking ball. It swings once, then nothing stays standing. The morning sun filtered through the shattered glass of the HOA office. It should have been a quiet, peaceful day for the residents. But in a neighborhood that had been under the boot of corruption, for years peace had a different sound now, the sound of freedom being earned. Liz sat on the curb, watching as the last of the arrests were made. Hale, cuffed and silent, was being pushed into the back of an unmarked car. His entire empire, built on deceit, greed, and threats, was crumbling. Behind her, a group of local officers were hauling out boxes of evidence. But none of that mattered. Not right now. Right now, the only thing that mattered was the woman standing beside her, Lila Carter, her daughter. The woman who had single-handedly turned a dangerous situation into a war zone of truth. Lila didn't wear a smile. She wasn't the type for celebration. But there was something different in her eyes as she looked at the officers, the neighbors, the families that had been trapped in this HOA nightmare. A quiet satisfaction. A hard-earned sense of justice. "You did it," Liz said, her voice low, proud. Lila glanced at her, then back at the scene. She didn't answer, but the stiff set of her shoulders said it all. She wasn't here for praise. She wasn't even here for recognition. She was here because the people needed her, and that was enough. Across the street, a local news crew was already setting up, cameras trained on the scene. Liz could hear the buzz of their chatter as they prepared their story. Lila turned to Liz. "I've got to go," she said softly. Her hand brushed her mother's arm. There was something fierce and gentle in that touch, a reminder of everything they had been through to get here. "We both knew this wasn't just a neighborhood fight. This was personal. And now," she nodded toward the gathering crowd, where homeowners were already coming together, arms around each other, laughing, crying. "A change is coming." Liz felt her heart tighten. She wasn't going to see her daughter for a while. Not like this, not so close. But there was no need for words. They both understood. The sound of Hale's car engine roaring to life pulled Liz's attention back to the chaos around her. The whole system was being torn down. Every false document, every fake fine. It was all being exposed. The world was finally seeing what had been hidden for so long. And then, just before Lila disappeared into the crowd, she looked back. A brief, fleeting smile passed across her face. A message without words. "You did your job, Mom. Now it's my turn." With that, Lila vanished, and Liz, with a lump in her throat, felt something inside her shift. Justice had been served. The neighborhood was free. And the world? It was about to get a whole lot cleaner. If you enjoyed this video and want to see the next part, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated. See you in the next one. Your support means the world.